So this is going to be a quick tutorial on how to hold your violin and how to orient it on your body. So when I'm, starting with a new student and I'm teaching them, once we get over, parts of the violin, kind of what they do if it's an older student, I'll teach them how to, put the violin from rest position to play position. So rest position, if you're able to do this, is when you tuck your violin under your bow arm. This is my right arm. It might be reflected because of the front facing camera that I'm using, but you just tuck it and you want to make sure you don't press, right? And your elbow or your forearm or part of your upper arm is going to sort of intersect with the chin rest. So you can just sort of hold it there and keep it steady. Make sure you have your shoulder rest or whatever setup you have. I have I think it's called a Whitner shoulder rest that attaches to the end of my chin rest. But if you have a regular coon or you're using a sponge, right, that's going to kind of contact your side, maybe your hip, probably your ribs, somewhere around there. You're just going to tuck it under, and we call this rest position. Now, play position is when we obviously bring the violin from rest position up to our shoulder. So the first thing I teach is think of drawing two lines, one of them from the center of your neck up through your head, and then the other one from the center of your neck out to the left and to the right. So it's going to make like a T cross, like a 90-degree angle. So you have to use your imagination a little bit so you know how to sort of frame where to put the violin, because you can't like look at it while you're doing it because it's underneath your head, if that makes sense, which I'll demonstrate when I do it. But the violin is going to sit on the 45-degree angle, right? So it's going to sit on the 45, not too far towards the front, not too far towards the shoulder. It's not going to point up or it's not going to point down. You want it parallel from the floor, and you want it pointing out kind of on the corner of your neck, if that makes sense. The chin rest, which is a misnomer, meaning your chin doesn't really go on the chin rest, at least the way that I learned. It's really a jaw rest. So again, you want to feel the chin rest sort of aligning with your jaw, this bone right here. And it'll sort of tuck underneath or at least contact here. There's different kinds of chin rests. That's a discussion for another time. But if your chin rest has a scoop, like mine does, whether it's a little higher or a little lower, it's gonna go right in kind of the nook here. If you take your fist and do this, just like this, that's where you want your chin rest to be. Your violin's gonna point out that way. The end button, which is here, this will sort of go near the center of your neck. Depending on your anatomy, it might touch your neck, it might not. Also depending on your chin rest, whether it's flat or it has a scoop. Depending on your shoulder rest, whether you have a sponge or coon or any sort of other arrangement, or you don't use one, this button may touch your neck, it may not touch your neck. If it touches your neck, great. If it doesn't, it's fine, as long as it feels somewhat comfortable. So 90% of your support is going to come from your head and 10% is going to come from your hand. We don't really hold the violin with the left hand. The way that I learned and the way that I teach is your thumb is just a marker for where your fingers go, right? It orients the hand, but we don't really like hold the violin with the left hand with the thumb, but it can rest, it's fine. And you'll adjust it as you play. So to go from rest position to play position, right? We know we're gonna find our shoulder. Your shoulder rest or sponge is gonna intersect like a cross with your collarbone here. So it's gonna make a T. Again, you have to feel this. You're not really gonna be able to see it unless you're looking in a mirror. So your shoulder rest is gonna go across here. The end button is gonna go to your neck. The scroll of your violin is gonna point on the 45. So you're gonna grab with the violin hand, left hand, the shoulder. You can take it up like this. You can turn it sideways. You can turn it up, bring it out a little bit, turn it this way, right? Turn it this way, and then bring the button to the center of your neck. Find your shoulder first. Don't move your head. Don't try to find it here. Find your shoulder first. Drop. Feel the shoulder rest across your collarbone, somewhat, and then find your jaw up over the chin rest, like that. You can turn your head if you want to. I generally would recommend not turning it. And again, you may have to adjust it a little bit this way. You might have to adjust it a little bit that way. You just don't want it like this or like that, because that's uncomfortable and it's weird and you won't be able to see. So once you do that, then you bring the weight of your head down, and then you can slide your thumb along the neck, back by the scroll, And then you're gonna keep, like I said, 90% of your support comes from here, and then 10% is gonna come from your thumb. The reason for that is you want to be able to move your hand if you're shifting, and you want your hand to feel as relaxed as possible when playing. You don't want your hand to feel like this. Same thing with the bow hold, but I talked about that in a separate video. So this is basically how I teach setup, holding the violin. It's very uncomfortable when you're first learning it, so it'll take some time to get used to, but just be really patient with yourself and you'll get used to it over time. So let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments or if there's any other topics you would like me to discuss, but happy practicing.